Bible records a time in Jesus' ministry when he was traveling through all the towns and villages in Galilee, teaching in synagogues and announcing the good news about the kingdom, and he healed every kind of disease and illness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Jesus comparing people to sheep here is not particularly unusual because the Bible regularly refers to us as sheep from beginning to end, as you can see from some of these verses. And it's not a particularly flattering comparison either because, of course, sheep are herd animals. They will just follow one another blindly. I read a story recently of a sheep farmer who stretched a rope across the door of a barn and called the sheep out. He let a few sheep jump over the rope as they exited the barn door, but then he cut the rope. The remaining sheep continued to jump over the invisible rope, not thinking twice. Pretty daft, right? And yet... It turns out comparing humans to sheep is actually quite accurate. The truth is we are relying on the crowd for our perception of reality far more than we realize or would care to admit. And as we've seen in the series, that can lead us to spend our days blindly following fads and fashions and being manipulated into buying books and cups that we don't need, applauding absolute gibberish, whether that be in lecture theatres or in real life, and following silly rules that don't make any sense. And worse, even when we know what the truth is, we often don't have the courage to go against the herd and to follow it. So instead, we often suppress the obvious truth so that we can feel the warmth of herd approval, which causes us to parrot nonsense about there being 1,000 genders or men putting on dresses being women and homosexuality being natural. Indeed, such is our desire to conform to the crowd that some will even go to their deaths rather than stand apart. These are the things that we've been learning over the course of this 7-part mini-series. To safeguard ourselves against a life of herd following then, I have offered 2 simple solutions in this series: to become informed and to be courageous. The more informed we become, the more likely we are to know the truth, and that will set us free from crowd following. We won't need to turn to there because we'll already know. And the more courageous we become, the more likely we are to stand for truth, whatever the cost, even when it makes us unpopular. We won't need to turn to the crowd to be liked because we'll be strong. Now, all of that being said, I want to finish this series by saying that we can't do all of this alone. We can't do this by ourselves. You see, it is good to be informed, of that there's no doubt. But no matter how informed we become, we can never be omniscient. We can never know all there is to know. And so it's always going to be likely that we're going to turn to the crowd for things. And no matter how courageous we are, we can never be omnipotent. We can never overcome all there is to overcome. And sometimes our strength will fail and we'll want to turn to the crowd to be liked. And this is why, to truly be free, I believe a person needs to turn to Jesus Christ, the omniscient and omnipotent overseer of our souls, or the good shepherd, as he calls himself. If being informed is a solution, then being omniscient is a perfect solution. And if being courageous is a solution, then being omnipotent is a perfect solution. You see what I mean? And we find that perfect solution in Jesus Christ. When we don't know the way to go, instead of turning to the crowd who themselves are lost, confused, and manipulated, we can follow Jesus, the Good Shepherd, in the knowledge that he will lead us on the right path through his perfect knowledge. Proverbs says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all you do, and he will show you which path to take." So when you come to the end of your knowledge, which way will you go? Will you look to the herd, or will you look to Jesus? Similarly, when you come to the end of your own strength and resolve, which way will you go? Will you turn to the crowd to be liked, Or will you turn to the omnipotence of Jesus Christ? God says that if you turn to him, he will give you strength by his Holy Spirit. And he says, so be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid and do not panic before your enemies, for the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will never fail or abandon you. So when confronted by a baying crowd who hate you because you won't conform, instead of turning to them to be liked, God says, don't worry, I will empower you and I'm with you. Keep on going. Indeed, I've already gone ahead of you. As a good shepherd goes ahead of his sheep, I will go ahead of you. So only by trusting in God's omniscience and omnipotence can we then truly be free of following the herd. I hope this graphic is making sense. It's a case of following God or following the world. It's that simple. Follow the sheep who are already lost and manipulated themselves, or follow the good shepherd. That's what we have in front of us. And it's only by going this way that you're truly going to be free from the manipulation and from the herd psychology. Now, in your doubt, you may ask though, but how do we know that Jesus is trustworthy and true? How do we know that he is the good shepherd, that he will do all of these things that he's promised, that he'll lead us safely to the truth and always be with us in difficult situations? How can we know this for sure? Well, we can know this because he has demonstrated his love for us in being willing to die for us. Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd sacrifices his life for his sheep. A hired hand will run when he sees a wolf coming. He will abandon the sheep because they don't belong to him and he isn't their shepherd. But I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep and they know me, just as my Father knows me and I know my Father. So I sacrifice my life for my sheep. So Jesus is saying, you can trust me to lead you. Others will abandon you, but I will never abandon you. When all the crowd is against you, I am right there with you in all circumstances. The wolves are at the door. I will never leave or forsake you. You are my sheep and I will protect you. I will lead you because I love you. And you know I love you because I laid down my life to save you. And I'm never going to leave your side. I'm never going to leave your side. Jesus said, there is no greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Now, when viewed in this light, as a Christian, the sheep metaphor becomes not so much unflattering as it becomes this beautiful picture of God's love for us, of his care, of his compassion, his leadership, and his protection. If we follow him in his omniscience and omnipotence, he will lead us. He will show us the right way and he'll lead us home. So you see, we have a very simple choice in life. Either we can be thrown around by the fads and fashions of any given era, manipulated by PR men and Bernaysian invisible governments who manipulate and exploit us for their own ends, or while pursuing knowledge and courage, we can give our lives to the Good Shepherd who sets us free from all of that, who leads us into all truth and who empowers us with all courage to walk a different path through his Holy Spirit. The Good Shepherd who loves you enough to die for you, who promises never to leave you or forsake you, and who promises to go ahead of you, to direct your steps and to lead you safely home. You have the Good Shepherd or you have the world. Those are the two options. And the Bible lays that choice before us and says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. The NLT says, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. You have two choices. Be led and transformed by God, the Good Shepherd, but if you won't, then the default is you'll simply conform to the patterns of this world and be thrown and tossed around by all the confused nonsense of the day. It's that simple. If you don't follow the Good Shepherd, the default is that you'll just follow everything else over here. G.K. Chesterton once said, when men choose not to believe in God, they do not thereafter believe in nothing. They then become capable of believing in anything, which is why as our society has drifted away from the Good Shepherd in recent generations, it's no coincidence that we now have a proliferation of people saying there are 1,000 genders and trans women are real women and homosexuality is normal. They're confused and helpless like sheep without a shepherd because that's exactly what they are. The Good Shepherd is our protection from all of this nonsense. So if you want to live a good life, be informed, be courageous, that I've already said. But to that, I now add the most important thing of all. Follow Jesus, the Good Shepherd, into his perfect knowledge and perfect strength. He is the omniscient and omnipotent overseer of our souls. Jesus Christ is the Good Shepherd.